as President Trump tries to move away from the controversy over the Jeffrey Epstein files, not all of his supporters are ready to. Some new polling by the Washington Post shows 86% of Americans want all of the files from this case released, including 83% of Republicans.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. Yesterday, I shared part one of my conversation with Joanne Carducci, better known to her millions of followers as JoJo from Jerz, about how we cannot lose sight of the victims at the center of the Epstein-Trump scandal. In part two, Joanne shares her thoughts from the perspective of a survivor about why this scandal seems to be breaking through even with Republicans in ways other scandals did not. The Epstein files have forced Republicans to look at other ways in which they've bought into Trump's lies. The whole saga is forcing them to confront how their party has systematically hurt children around the world. Joanne explains it beautifully, and she also offers some deeply personal insights for others who may be dealing with the kind of trauma she experienced. This is a tough one, but I hope you'll watch, and if there's anyone in your life who is a survivor and who is feeling alone or invisible, please share Joanne's words with them. Thanks so much. Here's our conversation.
If I were to really dig in here, that this somehow ties into all of that, because to your point about what has happened to the world's hungry children we've abandoned and walked away from, we're burning food instead of letting them have it. We're burning.
Literally.
Right. And somehow none of that was getting through for all of this time. And now everyone is paying attention in my circle, my peer group, my family. And I don't think that those are completely isolated. I think that this Epstein thing kind of pulled the curtain back a little bit on all of it. And it's interesting because it feels like a spell that was cast is starting to wear off, and maybe, just maybe that even the people who have held their noses and voted for him, because we can't really move the really, the deep, deep base, but some who may have held their noses and thought, I'll vote for him. I don't like him, but I'll vote for him because I like his policies. Maybe they're starting to see him for all we've known he was this entire time.
Well, I think there's an allegory for that. The king has no clothes, right? I mean, we have known for a long time that he's a sociopath, but his sociopathy is coming through now in ways it didn't before. Like when he talks about his major beef against Epstein being that he took staff away from him, underage staff, or when he describes the starving in Gaza as looking hungry. A year ago, those comments would have just flown under the radar. Now I think the people you're talking to, the people I'm talking to, hear them and think about it. Yeah. And they're like, wait, what? Like, what is happening here?
Yeah, I think it on immigration as well. I think that it's very interesting because when you look at the polling on immigration, his arguably strongest issue, right? The big one he ran on. I think this is going to sound naive, but I think ultimately at the end of the day that the American people are a good and just and moral people. I think that I have been perpetually shocked, if not surprised, by the capacity for cruelty in this country. And it is hard to watch. It has been really hard to endure for all of us. But when they said that they wanted a strong man to come in and get out the illegal criminals and gang members, that was one thing. But what they're seeing is children being stripped away, violently stripped away from their family members. They're hearing about children being deported by themselves. They're hearing about high school star athletes being taken at their asylum hearings where they're showing up to do the right things, to follow the process because they're looking for a better life. They're seeing, farms invaded by masked goons, people dragged, fathers of Marines beaten in the street. Like they're seeing these things and they're going, oh, no. That's actually not what you said. That's not who I am. That's not who we are. This is too far. And it is interesting too, because again, the intersection of all of this is the cruelty and the depravity and the disconnect the Republican Party, led by the head of this rotten fish, has with compassion, with empathy, with humanity, with decency, with obligation to protect each other, to uplift all boats. They have no interest in any of that. They really do embrace cruelty. For everyone from Joni Ernst, who after saying that we're all going to die, went to a cemetery and did another video where she mocked people and talked about the tooth fairy, to the evil turtle, Mitch McConnell, who said that people will get over losing their access to medication, losing their access to healthcare. People are going to die. There are some stats of up to like 51,000+ people are going to die. And I don't think, like, when you take all of that, I don't think the American people largely are like, yeah, winning. Some in the base, you cannot move, and they will literally twist themselves into whatever pretzels they have to make this make sense. But this unrelenting pain and cruelty and immorality and inhumanity that the American people are saying, that's too much, too far. And all of this ties together. And I think it's also, again, a delivery system in the weirdest way is a story that people can actually understand and grapple with and try to internalize. Because once you make someone feel something, when something resonates with their soul, which, the abuse of children does, the starvation of children does, then all of a sudden they see things in a very different way because they've connected with it on a human level. And I think that that's where our country increasingly is going. I hope that it leads to change. Donald Trump is there for the next several years, but we have a midterm, God willing, coming up. And I know that Republicans are trying to cheat because they know they're going to lose, but I think the will of the people is very, very strong. And I think ultimately we will see a swing back of this pendulum because people can't do this anymore. They can't sustain it. So I hope that we see a big change.
Hey, it's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break to say thank you to everyone who's been following and supporting this show and this channel. None of it happens without you. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my Substack page, I'd really appreciate the follow. It's a great way to make sure you never miss an episode. It's free to sign up. And if you're able to pitch in a few bucks, every dollar goes back into the show. Just search for The Ken Harbaugh Show on Substack or click the link below. Thanks. I think you're right. I think we'll see it too. I think there's evidence of it already in the desperation among Republicans to cheat. We just had Isaiah Martin on, who was arrested for protesting the Texas gerrymandering.
He's a good friend.
They see it coming, and that's a hopeful sign for us if we can uphold the rule of law until then. Look, to finish, I want to recenter on the victims where we started. And I'll put the link in the show notes below to your incredible piece on Substack, Rewarding Monsters. But if people have the stomach for it, they should read the comments. And look, I'm trying to apply a reference frame that I think a lot of my audience will get, and that's the reference to PTSD. As a veteran, with a lot of veterans watching, I want to remind folks that 97% of Americans who suffer from PTSD aren't veterans, right? They're trauma and assault victims, and a significant percentage of those are assault victims. And you see that coming through in these comments, and it's gut-wrenching to read. But do you have any parting thoughts, any words of advice to share for those victims, be they victims of Trump and Epstein or anyone who is seeing this story play out and feeling invisible?
That's exactly it. And by the way, thank you for your service, and thank you to your community for their service. The military is near and dear to my heart. I have lots of family members who have served. It's really important to me. It's I just thank you for that, and I just want to honor everyone's service. And you're right about the invisible part. I'm going to try not to cry. Those comments are very hard to read, but at the same time, trauma can be extremely isolating. Often that is what happens to survivors, is they internalize what happened to them, what they endured, and they can convince themselves both that they're alone and that they're invisible, but also that it was their fault in some way, that they deserved what happened to them. In the case of, sexual abuse survivors, that is often what they're told. They're told, you look what you made me do. Your skirt was too short. You were too flirty. I was blamed for what happened to me by my own friends. And I was shocked. I was shocked when I went to talk to them about what had happened to me. They called me a slut. They called me a whore. My virginity was taken from me and they called me a whore. And so what you do is you take that and you internalize it and you believe you are invisible. You are alone. And what conversations like this do, well, hopefully the Substack did what I was hoping to accomplish in some way, shape, or form, was to make people feel seen, to make them feel that they mattered, that they were not alone, that there is a community of human beings out there who care about them and care about respecting them, and care about their stories and care about their pain and care about lifting them up and helping them heal. But what happens is, as you've seen in your conversations, I'm sure, is that even if you can get one person, just one person who is out there feeling alone, feeling invisible, feeling ashamed, isolated, feeling like no one sees them, and in that dark space, you consider a lot of horrible things and you don't take care of yourself. But if there's one person out there who can hear a conversation or read an essay where they feel seen and empowered towards sharing their story, you get to help them unlock something inside that hopefully will help them start a journey towards healing. And then people pay it forward. You see it all the time. You see other people who've survived trauma helping others come behind them and navigate their way through. And I often say, like, in this dark moment we're living in all ways, that the only way out is through, and the only way through is together. That's how you do it. One story at a time, one, moment of humanity and vulnerability, one hard truth at a time. And so that's what I would say to anybody out there, whether they're a veteran, and again, so grateful for your service, or a survivor of abuse, that we are going to get through all of this. You're going to get through this, and we're going to do it together.
Well, Jo, thank you for sharing, for writing that. I wish we didn't have to talk about it. And I want the audience to know that before I hit record, Jo and I talked about it. I don't have anything to add other than to say thank you. It's tough to listen to. I can't imagine how tough it is to write about and talk about, but thank you. You're an inspiration.
Well, thank you. And they are, these conversations are so important, and thank you for facilitating it. Like, again, if one person out there feels seen by this, and less alone, then that's all that matters.
Thanks, Jo. Appreciate it.
Thank you.